at this point, when you guys are when you guys are talking about the what do you call it? The child support. This is when you agreed to go from $20,000 a month to $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was that deposition. It all changed that deposition when I showed up, because I told Navy that, I said, it's Father's Day weekend. If you want to make your dad something, we'll send it to him. I didn't tell her I was gonna personally.
You didn't take Navy though. You didn't take Navy.
I couldn't take her to a deposition.
That would have been traumatic for her.
Yeah,
okay, so you
probably all of us at that point.
No question. But more importantly, the child is, it's going to be a bigger effect on her. Of course, on everybody, but on her it'd be different because it's younger. It's going to have an impression on her. So you see him. He doesn't know you're coming. Deposition. What's his reaction when he sees you?
Well, so I get there and I've got this box. I let Navy make him something. And she made him, she drew him a picture of him and her. And they were as potato heads. And I had to write as potato heads because they were both orange. And I thought, this looks real similar to Donald Trump. And I don't want him to get the wrong impression. So I want to let him know that these are potato heads and that's the color she chose.
She has good taste.
And so I have to write it, in the corner, me and my dad as potato heads in quotation marks.
So funny.
And I gathered pictures of her from the first 5 years of her life, almost 5 at the point. And I put it all in this big white box. And I walked into depositions. My attorney walks up to me before, and Hunter's in the back with his attorneys. And he says, Hunter had no clue you were coming. They're flustered. They don't know why you're here. And I was like, well, what he doesn't know, I guess he thought that I was there to listen to the deposition. But what he doesn't know was I was there just to give him that box. I told my daughter that she could make him something for Father's Day. And that was the first engagement that she could ever have with her father. And it meant the world to her to sit there and watch her. She made him a bracelet. Mm-hmm. And that itself, I was going to get that box to him one way or another. At the time? She was fixing to be 5. She was 4.
So she remembered. You were at it's an age where it's you can communicate at this point. You can make stuff. You can do. I mean, my kid's doing that at 2.5, let alone 5 years old. Okay. So what's his reaction when you give him the box?
Well, he comes in the room and I'm sitting there with my attorneys and they're telling me they don't understand why you're there. Well, there was a couple reasons I was there. The box. And then there was some things no, it was made public that, he had no recollection of me and things like that. And so there was some questions I wanted answered. And I wanted my attorney to ask some of those questions. And I wanted to be there and have him sit across the table from me and say it to my face. And so I wanted to first, give the box. So he comes in, he's like, hey, how are you doing? Good. Yeah. Fine. And he sits down and, my attorney says off the record, there's something my client wants to give, Hunter. And I stand up and I remember, I haven't talked to this man. I've seen him in court one time. And I remember thinking that he didn't look like the man that I once knew. And I said, call me Trump. Where's Hunter? That does not look like Hunter, that man that I saw in court that day. And I of course, avoided him. But I remember standing up with the box and my hands were shaking and my voice was shaking. And I told him, I said, this might not mean anything to you, but it means the world to our daughter. And that's why I'm here today, to make sure that you get this. And I told him, I said, she's made you some things. I've also got pictures in there of her, of the first 5 years of her life. And I also have a bunch of videos. I have a folder completely in my phone that's for HB, to send anytime. If he wants videos, anything. He's missed out on so much. And she's absolutely spectacular. You have children, it's you can't get that time back. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to do that for her. And I handed him the box, and you can tell this look on his face. He's confused, is this a trap? She's being nice. And he just gets it and he says, thank you. And then he sets it on the shelf behind him. And I'm like, you're not even gonna open the damn box? So I got offended. I was mad. And then my attorney starts the deposition asking, some tough questions. And finally, Hunter, he just looks at me and he's like, can we talk? And I said, yes. I would be open to that. And I was actually texting my attorney beside me, like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm really uncomfortable at this point. Like, I'm ready to go. She's like, you can walk out whenever, but stay right now. Because she felt like, I guess as an attorney, she sees that he might be getting flustered in his questions or whatever it was. So then he asked to talk. And so we go to a room, just the two of us. And there was crying, there was laughing, there was,
He's crying. Both of you guys are crying.
Both.
Okay.
And as soon as I walk in, I talk about, like, he just embraced me in a hug. And yeah, I just immediately started crying. So I've hated you. and that's something that's so hard because, you see everything that your child deserves and she's not getting that. And it causes you to hate that other person. And at that time, like I said, Hunter, I've hated you. I've hated you for years. I said, this little girl, she prays for you every night. Do you know that? This little girl asks about you every day. She'll come to me, Mommy, what's my daddy's voice sound like? And you know what I do? I find your eulogy that you give at your brother's funeral, where she can see, she can see love in her father. Wow. And that's what I showed her. And what's the tough part is she watches it. And in the eulogy, he says, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that was what he heard after the tragedy, after the car accident. Bo's words to him, I love you, I love you. And I'm watching my daughter watch this on an iPhone screen. And she says, I love you, and kisses the iPhone screen. And I'm going to have to sit there, and try with this huge lump in my throat, trying to be strong for her and let her know, see, he's a man full of love. And I want her to see the good in him. I do. I want her to know she comes from a good place and the possibilities that she has. And that was very tough for me because at the time, I hated him. I hated him for what he'd done to me, and I hated him for what he had done to our daughter. And that's the whole point of the book, because forgiveness is a burden that, you hang on to. And if you don't forgive, whether they apologize or not, you that burden's on you. And I had to forgive. And that day when we sat in that room, and another thing I brought up, I told him, I said, my daughter spent a lot of time making you a Father's Day gift, and you set it on the shelf behind you. And he says, I was not about to open that box in front of your attorneys and be vulnerable in front of them. But again, this is about our child. So he has them go get the box, and they bring it through there, and we go through pictures, and, we're laughing at like certain pictures of her and everything. Of course, he's seeing himself. She looks so much like him.
Eyes are the same.
Oh, same eyes. Absolutely. And mannerisms. My friend that comes in, the mutual friend between the two of us, she'll come in twice a year. And she says, every time I come, I get PTSD. It's like you and Hunter going back and forth 24/7. But there was forgiveness given that day. And I remember we stayed in there for a long time. We went through that box. We talked about Navy. And, I can remember him telling me as he was crying, you don't know the remorse and the guilt that I've lived with every day that she's been born. And I told him, I know that you were in a bad place during that time. I get that. But when do you make it right? At what point? You're sober now. You're standing in your truth. And you have a little girl in Arkansas that loves you, prays for you, talks about you, she'll tell you her grandfather is the president. Has she ever met him? No. Is she proud of him? She used to walk around and, Arkansas has a lot of conservative people. My family has a lot of conservative people in it. And she's always, like Dad says, she's born to be an attorney because she'll argue with the wall. She'll argue with anybody. But, if there was anything about, like, the election that was going on, the campaign, she was, 2? And she's walking around saying, no, Trump, let's Joe, baby. Like, that's what she would say. Let's Joe, baby, instead of let's go, baby. Yeah. And, of course, my family's all like, ha.
Yeah. Get her out of here. Get her out of the living room.
But she has supported him and his family from a distance, and he's never known that. And all, I think that him and his family has seen was this toxic litigation around her. But that was just me wanting him to take accountability for his child. That's it. I don't care. The night that my attorney, I talk about, this story in the book, the night that my attorney called to tell me the child support and like the amount, I was floored. I was fine with the temporary child support, which is less than what he's paying now. And he had to be at depositions, that next morning during the paternity suit, to settle and he didn't want to come answer my attorney's questions. So the night before, his attorney's calling, like, how can we settle this right now? Of course, my attorney puts it off. Well, I'm actually having dinner with my kids, so I don't know if I get done in time. I'll call you back, but if not, I'll see you all at 8:00 in the morning. And it was, I settled that night, and I would have never guessed that amount. I would have never came out and flat out asked for any amount. I can't tell you. I can remember my attorney asking, like, what amount are you okay with? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, what's normal?
Any motive on the amount of money to ask for? That's not even something you're thinking about.
It was not. I know people think that, and they think that was the main reason. The entire reason was for accountability. But I talk about, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. But hell hath no greater fury than a woman or a mother whose baby is being scorned. And that itself, was there anger in me at that time? A lot. So I didn't care.
From that moment on till today, have you guys had communication? Has he seen Navy again or no?
From that moment on, we decided that, he would engage with her in art. They could start off doing like a Zoom call once a month. She gets to pick out what painting, and he'll send it to her and whatnot. And he believes the two most important things to him is art that got him out of that tough time. And family. He said art and family is what got him through that tough time, and that's what got him to recover, got him over that addiction. And so he said, what better way to get to know my daughter than through art? It's helped me in other ways. And I'm all for it. That's great. That's wonderful. And so when we settled that day, I go home, and it's Father's Day weekend. And Father's Day weekend, my daughter doesn't bring it up, but she hadn't, but she's always known Father's Day weekend, we celebrate Pappy, and that's my dad. And, of course, been a great figure in her life, a male figure. She does have that. And we're both blessed with that. And I get to tell her that Father's Day, I said, hey, today's Father's Day and we celebrate Pappy, but I sent your gift to your daddy. And guess what? You might not get to talk to him right away, but this Father's Day, you got your dad. I was like, and you're going to start getting to talk to him. Would you like that? And she's like, can I call him right now? And I'm like, well, whoa, moving a little quick. No, I said, we'll call when the time is ready. We're going to work out some details. Let us work that out. I said, but this Father's Day, you got your daddy. And that was just, the look on her face. Just like the look on her face the first time she saw him on Zoom call. It's worth every penny, any amount of child support. But you guys don't see each other, but he does a Zoom with her once a month. Yes, it started off once a month, and then it became like every week, and then sometimes a couple times a week. And that's something that I applauded him on. He would be, of course, we all know he had so much going on in Hunter Biden's world, always. But this time, there's a lot of things that he's having to take accountability for now, and he'll come out of a meeting, with his attorneys or something, and just to FaceTime her for a little bit and let her know that he loves her. And they've created that bond through Zoom.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.